All right, let's get
Okay.
to the NHL playoffs here. I know that you wanted to start. It's Nurse's week. It's also a Nurse suspension that we need to talk about right off the top here, right?
Heyo.
Yeah, I know, right? All right, you go into this because I put both the tweets up here from the NHL player safety, which it should be. What are those? It's like a parody account. Like this needs to have one of those check marks on it because whatever this Twitter account does, it's a joke, right? So the NHL player safety announced that Darnell Nurse has been automatically suspended for 1 game, and Coach Jay Woodcroft has been fined $10,000 under Rule 46.21, instigating in the final 5 minutes of regulation. That was ridiculous. He got punched what 5, 6, 7 times before he even dropped the gloves. And Nurse, like, listen, the Oily boys are gonna like this because I'm backing up an Oiler here, but like that's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous penalty. We don't know, has it come out yet what Pietrangelo is going to get? Because if they don't give Pietrangelo a game for that slash on Leon Draisaitl, that was malicious, right? Like that was I'm not trying to stop you from scoring a goal as I'm defending in the defensive zone. He slashed the hell out of that guy's arm. Leon Draisaitl too, the guy who's got like 13 goals and leading the playoffs in point. You can't slash that guy like that. That's ridiculous.
I don't even want to say, regardless of who it is, it should be at least a game. Like I think it should be 2 games, to be honest with you. I think it should be 2, maybe even more. Like that was a vicious slash. The intent to injure there, not a hockey play, all that sort of stuff, all your cliches, all the things that they post in these explanation videos, checks all the boxes. Now, on the topic of the Nurse thing, Chris, that final 5-minute rule or whatever, okay? First of all, I don't think it should be a thing in the playoffs, like unless it's egregious. And here's the thing: is the NHL has the power to, kind of overturn that, right? Like they don't have to give out that suspension, even though it's in the rule book, and all the people being like, "Well, rules are the rules." The NHL is allowed to apply it wherever they deem necessary. And to me, you just brought it up, got punched like 5 times first, not necessary, especially in the playoffs. Come on, like you can't try. Like, I don't know. I honestly, I don't even know what to say. Like, I don't even know what to say. This has been a bad week for the NHL. That's the easiest way to put it. All of the optics with the NHL right now, you shouldn't routinely have people being very upset about what your league is doing and how your league operates. People are very upset that the Chicago Blackhawks got not punished at all for the Kyle Beach stuff. Sure, they get punished, okay? But I'm not going to get into all that. They don't lose any draft capital, and basically the reward ends up being, yeah, you can have Connor Bedard. You can have Connor Bedard. Now, you take that and you have fans in basically every fan base except for Chicago extremely upset, right? And part of it, I will admit, part of it probably has to do somewhat with how successful the Hawks have been in the past, right? Like it might have something to do with that, but majority of it has a lot more to do with the lack of punishment that you doled out to this organization. And now people have to see their logo, people have to see their team all over the highlight reels because they just got the generational talent that you just rewarded them with. I'm not saying the draft lottery is rigged. I'm not trying to get into all that. What I am saying is the optics are dog water, Chris. They are horrible for the NHL. With this, and now you have all this stuff from last night where Pietrangelo goes and slashes Draisaitl, and we don't even know what's going to happen. Pietrangelo slashes Draisaitl, I meant. We don't even know what's going to happen yet, but everybody's just bracing for, he's been fined $5,000, the maximum allowable amount under the CBA. People are bracing for that. I think it should be at least 2 games. Look, we're no Oilers fans, but come on. Like, do something right, because what they did with the Nurse thing, if you want to push this hard-nosed game, and look at, there's hitting in our game, there's fighting in our game, all that. If you want to push that, figure it out. Figure out where your line is, because what happened last night was an absolute joke on all accounts. And what happened today, I should say, was the joke, because last night's event, a lot of people watching that game, everybody has a moral compass, and everybody watches that game and kind of decides, okay, this is what I think should happen. And I think there's about 3 people, and they all just so happen to work at the NHL, 3 people that agree with what the NHL has decided to do here.
Yeah, I think, imagine this situation if that's a broken wrist, right? What did you just took away the guy who's scoring at the most ridiculous rate we've ever seen in the NHL playoffs? That guy can't get slashed like that and expect the player who did the slashing to come back, even if they are a star player in their own right. And I think you can argue that Pietrangelo isn't that really anymore, but I mean, still solid player. Don't get me wrong, but like the guy is late in the game's out of reach, and you have an egregious slash like that. I thought it was ridiculous, and that type of thing, even if it goes for like a 1 game suspension, you think other players are now going to be like, well, hey, like I don't have a huge problem slashing the hell out of Connor McDavid if I'm only going to get 1 game. Like, like that's a dangerous, slippery slope that this playoffs can go down. And you mentioned like the physicality. I really think it's very different. Like I get that. Listen, getting punched in the face during a play or whatever after the whistle, that's not a hockey play. I understand that. That's not a hockey play. But that's a part of hockey that I think is understood by all the players that could happen. A slash like that, two-handed down on the forearm of the wrist, players understand that could happen, but it's not something that they're happy with. Like, they're not something that they're just fine with it being part of the game, because that's what I'm saying. That's not part of the game. Face washing guys and throwing punches after the whistle in playoffs. Listen, that's part of the game. What we saw last night is not part of the game. It needs to be addressed. And I think really you could use this to kind of set a precedent for the future now with, yeah, we get it as playoff hockey. You got to play hard. That was a disgusting play. And it's not like some of the, like, listen, we see a lot of dirtier plays. We see a lot of guys get crushed in the back. I've seen, guys come off on stretchers in the past couple of years from the NHL game. So it's a little different, but I think this is the type of situation where, because it's a star, because of the game was out of reach, just the situation you have, you can really set a standard here for how officiating can kind of be looked at in the playoffs and make it something that is now kind of the standard moving forward. Like, you have an opportunity here to kind of make this a win for hockey. And I don't think it's not like, I'm not saying this is going to change the game and change everything, but I think you have an opportunity here to at least push the needle in the right direction. I have no confidence that the NHL is going to do that. I don't think they're going to use this at all as something that helps the game. I think they're going to use, I think what they do, and I don't know what's going to happen yet. I don't know if there's going to be a long suspension or whatever it may be, but I think what they're going to do is going to end up being laughed at. And it's going to be something that's going to be another stain on the NHL for what they do. It's probably going to end up being 1 game. And you're saying, okay, that guy, what he did is the exact same as Darnell Nurse being punched 5, 6, 7 times and then dropping his own gloves and fighting. How is that the same? There's nothing similar in those two things at all. One is, listen, 2 guys that were willing to fight, they fought. Yeah, I get it was in the last 5 minutes. The other guy got 2-arm slash on the best player in the league right now in the NHL playoffs. They're gonna fumble this. I know the NHL is gonna fumble this.